out front tonight, an overdue library book. That is the Trump team's new defense. Tonight, the former president's attorneys downplaying the classified documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. That comparison to an overdue library book made by Trump's new lawyer, that is Florida's former Solicitor General Chris Kise. To be clear here, during the search of Trump's home last month, the FBI seized 33 boxes, which included more than 100 classified documents, which were marked confidential, secret, and also top secret. That is on top of 15 boxes that Trump's team turned over in January, where there were 184 classified documents. Kai's also reiterating Trump's request for a special master to examine the documents seized from his Mar-a-Lago home. The judge in all of this, Aileen Cannon, did today stop short of making a final decision at the hearing. We could get her ruling, though, on that any minute. We could also soon learn more about what the FBI took exactly in those boxes from Trump's home last month. Judge Cannon said she is thinking about publicly releasing a more detailed list of what was taken from Mar-a-Lago. So this all comes as there is news on another Justice Department investigation involving Trump, the DOJ's probe into January 6th. We are now learning that Trump's White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, and his former deputy, Patrick Philbin, are expected to appear before a grand jury investigating the riot tomorrow. Cipollone and Philbin have already been interviewed by the FBI about the sensitive documents stored at Mar-a-Lago. They have also testified behind closed doors before with the January 6th committee. So let's begin there. Evan Perez is out front tonight in Washington. Evan, what more can you tell us about what happened today in that hearing in Florida?
Well, Poppy, it was about a 2-hour hearing, and the judge, Aileen Cannon, made clear that she's still thinking about appointing the special master. The Justice Department obviously disagrees with that. They say that there is no need for appointing a special master. They pointed out that this separate team of lawyers that is not connected to the investigation has already gone through these documents, has separated about more than 500 pages of documents that could have some kind of attorney-client privilege material. And they've already removed that, and they have a whole procedure set up to review that information. She, however, seems to think, and she said in court, what would be the harm to have a third party come and look at these documents, not only for attorney-client privilege, but she also said that this issue of executive privilege, which the former president says he still has, even though he is not president, something the Justice Department, by the way, disagrees with. She says that that is something that is not settled law, and it is something that she is obviously still considering. As you pointed out, she said that she is going to, if she appoints a special master, she is going to make sure that the Justice Department, the FBI, don't have access to those documents during the time that that is being reviewed. But she said that potentially the intelligence community would still be able to do their damage assessment, their review of those documents, which is something that obviously is very, very important from the national security perspective, Poppy.
No question about it. Again, her ruling and all of this would come in a little bit. Evan, thanks very much for the reporting from Washington. Out front tonight, Ryan Goodman, former special counsel at the Department of Defense, now co-editor-in-chief of the Just Security legal blog and a professor of law at NYU. Also, Ellie Honig, our senior legal analyst and a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Thanks, gentlemen, both. And Ryan, let me just begin where we started this hour, and that is the legal argument. I'm not sure it's based on any legal doctrine, but the legal argument that Trump's team made that classified documents are essentially like a, quote, overdue library book.
Yeah, it's a startling suggestion, and it's very cavalier when we're talking really about the nation's most heavily guarded secrets, the most highly classified information, even higher than top secret, and that they're being placed in an environment that's very insecure, a resort, subject to public coming in and out, where it also means that the intelligence community is currently engaged in a damage assessment to see whether or not this implicates the U.S. national security, human sources whose lives might be at danger, surveillance programs that might have to be suspended because we have to assume that they're compromised. So I think it's really an unfortunate statement, to put it mildly. Mm-hmm. And it's not just receiving a note from your librarian, it's a grand jury subpoena which they seem to have disobeyed. So it's something of a much greater magnitude.
It's so interesting that they made that argument, which is not even a legal argument to make, and then didn't address one of Trump's key defenses, which is, well, I declassified all of them. They didn't even get into that. Ellie, I mean, one of Trump's lawyers in this argued today in court that the government is the, quote, latest boogeyman, that a special master would need top security clearance, right? And therefore, it could take a while. How much, if they get it, if Trump's team gets a special master that they want, who, by the way, would need very high security clearance, this is what they're asking for, how much would that slow down the DOJ's case?
Well, Poppy, that's DOJ's main argument, essentially, that to impose a special master here will slow us down, will gum up the works. We'll have to settle on who is going to be the special master. That person will have to be cleared, and then they'll have to actually do the review. And I do think if the judge orders a special master, I do think she will take specific steps to try to make this as streamlined and narrow as possible. DOJ even argued in their brief, Judge, if you do order a special master, we don't want you to do that, but please order us to get this done within really by the end of September. I think the counter argument from Trump's people is it's worth it. It's worth it if there's some more bureaucracy here, there's some delay, because we're trying to protect a person's interests and rights here, and we want the American public to be assured that his rights were fully protected and that it's not solely in the hands of DOJ. That's sort of the competing arguments that we heard today.
The judge is going to let, either way, the intelligence community, Ryan, keep going through these materials. However, she did indicate that she may temporarily block the Justice Department from accessing those materials in its criminal probe while the special master, if they get one, does their job. What do you make of that?
It's really perplexing.
Okay.
Because it's so hard to even see how this could be wrapped up in executive privilege, which he suggested that that would be the scope of the review, and therefore deny executive materials to the executive branch. That's just not how executive privilege works. It's really about whether or not certain materials will go to Congress or to courts or to the public. So that part's on its own a non-starter in a certain sense in terms of how the legal theory works. And then the second part is, what does it even mean? How is it workable that you'd share it with one part of the executive branch, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, to conduct an intelligence review.
Not the other?
And not the other, the FBI, which is also a part of the intelligence community that needs to do the damage assessment. I don't think she can actually write it that way. So when she goes back to her chambers and tries to write the order that way, I hope that something else will prevail and she won't try to go down that path, because it doesn't seem workable and it's not what executive privilege is actually about.
And Ellie, Trump's lawyer today in this hearing also arguing that appointing a special master would restore order, increase trust in the investigation, quote, lower the temperature. And the judge asked prosecutors, DOJ, what's the harm? Do you think the Trump team is right on that?
Well, I think that's a core argument, and I think it does carry some weight to say, look, we understand this may take a bit more time, but exactly, what's the harm? It will be difficult, it will be inconvenient for you, federal government, DOJ, but that's life. I mean, DOJ gets ordered to do things that are difficult all the time, and Trump's argument is we will have our clients' interests fully protected. The public will be reassured. Now, I'm not so sure, given the track record, that Donald Trump's legal team will be fully satisfied and not complain about his rights being violated ever again if they get their special master. But that is the argument here. It really comes down to one of convenience and workability on one side versus how far do we go to protect someone's interests, constitutional interests, and privilege interests on the other hand.